Luke, can you talk about the recent incident in the New York City subway where a 24-year-old Marine, I think he is a former Marine, choked a homeless man to death in self-defense and to date has not been charged? Well, we shall see. I mean, even during this chat, I don't know what's going to happen. The government there is under significant pressure to do something more. Whether they will or they won't, we shall see. Okay, a couple of caveats. Number one, I've spent the majority of my life in cities. American cities, obviously, but cities just the same. I live in Washington, D.C. I've been taking the subway, or they call it the metro here. I've been taking the metro here since the 1980s. And I lived in New York for 3 years, and I've been commuting back regularly. You guys know that for more than 20 years at this point. I moved to New York in 2002, moved back in 2005, and I've been going back, I mean, in 2019, I went to New York 2 times a week for 50 weeks. And I had to take the subway every single time I did that. I've been taking the subway there a long time. So put my cards on the table. I think there's a lot of people who don't live in cities, who don't ride the New York City or even any kind of subway, and they've got certain feelings about it. Honestly, I can respect that to an extent, but unless you're a native New Yorker, you probably don't have more subway experience than me, most of you watching this. Okay, so I've been riding the New York City subways a long time. Used to live off the 6 on the 2-3. I used to take the 2-3 every morning down to World Trade Center. And then from World Trade Center, I had to hop on the PATH train, take the PATH train all the way to Newark, work in Newark, then come back, take the PATH train, go back to World Trade Center, then go back and take the 2-3 to go live, because I used to live at 80th in Amsterdam in the Upper West Side. All right. So I am intimately familiar with the New York City subway system beyond just the confines of Manhattan. You get it. I've seen it. When people complain about the amount of homeless and the unruliness of them, they're telling the truth. They're telling the truth. We should be very honest about it. You guys know how much I have disparaged the New York City subway system because of how absolutely dirty it is. I mean, it's just so filthy. It's unbelievable. But it is handy in terms of getting you from place to place. So you kind of just live with it and you move along. But when people tell you that there are a lot of homeless on there, and it's not just ones who are walking around. Sometimes you'll see them camped out at the back of a train car. They come between train cars, which you can't really do as nimbly in the DC metro, but you can do it very easily in New York City. They're telling the truth. They're telling the truth. So we should be very clear about that. It is a serious problem. Okay, but dude, I mean, you just got to be fucking kidding me with some of this stuff. I mean, there's so many layers to this story that are just beyond disturbing that I cannot believe we're even having a fucking debate over this. Guys, let's just start with some of the basics here, right? He was held in, according to reports. Now, to the extent that, by the way, I'm not an expert in, I'm deeply unqualified to speak about the legality of it in New York. Who the fuck knows? Ask someone else. Okay. Guys, the reports that I've seen have said that he was held in that rear naked choke position for 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, not a person on earth could live through that. Not one. We're talking about a choke that, when applied correctly under the auspices of an expert, takes about 3 to 4 seconds. Right. And maybe 30 at most if you have to really kind of wrench it and stuff. Right. I mean, these are very, very effective chokes when applied correctly, which tells me that he probably wasn't applied correctly, but certainly enough to do fucking damage because it took his life. Okay. Guys, there's only 2 possibilities with the 15-minute consideration. One is they were trying to kill the guy. I'm not saying that is exactly what it is, but I'm giving you, there's just a range of possibilities. One is, if you know anything about that position and the rear naked choke, you know that 15 minutes will fucking kill a guy. So either they were trying to kill a guy or they didn't know that, and he was deploying techniques, dangerous techniques, that he had no business deploying, was quite literally overkill, and a man lost his life for it. It is extremely unpersuasive to me that was not merely an appropriate solution, but the only one. It's just not really realistic at all. He was, not only from the video that I've seen, he was held in a rear naked choke position, not fully, BJ Penn in his prime, but enough to give the guy problems. And then there was another passenger who was employing wrist control. So the guy couldn't even hand fight, right? He had his arms like out here, and then there's another guy behind him grabbing his neck, and this went on and on and on and on to the point where they fucking killed him, intentionally or otherwise. They killed him. I mean, that's how he died, right? So again, what the legality of that is to me, I don't know. I couldn't possibly tell you. I don't know I don't understand the laws around violence in this country very well, but even in blue states and blue cities, who the fuck knows? But the idea that that was an appropriate outcome and that that was the inevitable outcome and that is a justifiable outcome is so deeply unpersuasive to me. If you don't know what the fuck you are doing with those particular holds or chokes, deploying them in that way is so fucking irresponsible to the point where, yeah, you can kill a guy doing it, right? I don't know about the gentleman's motives. Maybe he genuinely thought he was trying to do a good thing. I cannot speak to his motivations. And maybe he thought he did do a good thing. I don't know. Maybe you think he did a good thing. Again, I get that people are coming to the situation from a lot of different perspectives. I'm simply trying to tell you it is either that they tried to kill the guy or they were so out of their depth in involving themselves in the situation that they acted negligently in a way to kill him. Those are your only two possibilities here. There is, I was trying to, do a good thing and I thought this was fine. Yeah, you thought a lot of things in a situation you were not invited to, have the training to be involved in, and now look at the result. But there's really a lot more to the story, and I'm actually going to leave the racial dynamics utterly alone because I don't think I have anything to constructively add to that. But I will say some other things. Guys, homeless people are the downstream issues from complete mismanagement, right? I mean, these are issues that we frankly just tell you that this is really a us versus them scenario in terms of wealth. It's not exclusively related to, but there is so much data around what happens when housing becomes in short supply and it becomes incredibly expensive. Obviously, it's more than that. It can be associated with obviously drug use and other forms of mental illness. I get that. But these are downstream situations from a lack of effective governance and or care, right? These homeless people, no one dropped them off from another planet or pulled them from the Midwest in these small farm towns and then dropped them in New York City or dropped them in Washington, D.C. or dropped them in Atlanta or LA or San Diego or whatever. You get the idea. They didn't just happen by accident. They are there as a result of the policies that we have put into place over time, and they've been exacerbated more recently, where there's now yet more visible homeless, or it has turned to like dystopian levels in some of these major cities. DC has had some of the problem with it. They've made some impact. Mayor Bowser, believe it or not, there's good things about her, there's bad things about her. I think they have tried to introduce a program here locally that connects people in these housing encampments with work, with dedicated, ready to go, brand new housing. The program has seen about a third of those entering it, staying in it, meaning 2/3 drop out, but it has made a dent locally. But getting back to this scenario, understand that these are human beings. I mean, the lack of empathy for these guys who are having mental episodes, who are desperately poor, poor to the nth degree, mentally ill to the nth, in certain cases, to the nth degree. And they are there by no accident. People keep trying to turn homelessness into individual moral failure. And of course, over time, you will see certain examples of that. But we just know it's so much more complicated than that. These are downstream situations from problems that our government, whether it's your party in there or mine or someone else's, simply seems uninterested in solving. And I know what folks are going to tell you, oh my God, look at the budget for this, look at the budget for that. This is just fucking nonsense. The level of investment we have per capita, per person for these programs, whether it's in blue states like New York and LA, or even red ones like Georgia and Florida, in particular places like Texas and Florida, the amount of investment compared to like actually like Nordic countries is like a fraction of what they introduced. Like, you have to understand something about the defund the police movement, which I do not support, but they have one part of that, what they say, that I do think is correct. One part of it, which is turning poverty, or I should say using law enforcement to combat poverty, is a failed endeavor. It simply will not work. To this point, how many arrests did this guy have? 40 plus arrests, including being on the run for what, not on the run, but whatever he was for felony assault. Guys, did the law enforcement system make that situation better? And so what is the idea? That just throwing these guys in jail, like just turning a homeless into prison pipeline and this carceral thinking, this is the enlightened way out of this problem? This seems to me like utterly backwards. We have created a situation where we have allowed these problems to fester, and they're real. They're real. These problems are very real, but we have allowed them to fester without adequate solution. We don't want to actually invest in ourselves in a way that would meaningfully address them, certainly make significant contributions to solving the problem. It turns into this one where you've got this guy utterly failed by the American healthcare system, utterly failed by the American judicial system, utterly failed by the American educational system. I mean, he is a walking indictment of maybe his own personal failures, but the failures of the ability and the system to care for people like him. He is he does not exist in a vacuum. He is a product of these failed policies. And unless we can muster the political will to invest in ourselves up front as a way to meaningfully address childhood hunger, as a way to meaningfully address educational attainment, and meaningfully address income inequality. Like, you guys can keep your culture wars about who the fuck is promoting Bud Light. I don't give a shit. I want to know what the fuck people are going to do about housing capacity and YIMBY laws and zoning. I want to know about access to healthcare. I want to know about things that can meaningfully improve the lives of people that the government is actually in a position to do something about. Doing nothing but creating a situation where homeless people actually grow in number or become certainly more destitute with these encampments, and saying this is strictly their fault when we have good reason, very good reason to believe and know that is a simplistic response. And then deputizing ourselves to kill these fucking guys on the subway when they actually didn't even, in his particular circumstance, I realize he was a violent guy, or whatever the situation was with him, but in that particular regard hadn't actually attacked anyone, and now we're deputizing ourselves to kill this guy and then say this is an appropriate solution to the problem. This is so fucked. I don't even know. I mean, it's so morally backwards. I don't even know how to, like, what? It just seems absurd to me, but utterly absurd. And I'm going to say one more thing. There are many, like, two more things. One, this idea that, like, this Marine acted heroically. Maybe he did. There are pieces of information we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I tend to think I don't buy that at all, but okay. I've been riding the New York City subway for about 20 fucking years. How many times have I had to intervene because a homeless person got crazy? One time. A guy, I was in the back of the train. I was taking the N train. I was in the back of it, and there was a guy that came on, some homeless dude, and he gets on. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, blah, blah, blah. They do this speech, and no one responded. And he fucking starts screaming, like these guys sometimes do. And he took his hat off, and he's whipping it around, and he spun around, and he hit this woman in the face with it. And a bunch of us got up at that point because he hit her pretty hard. Like, he didn't draw blood, but she had like a red mark on her face at the next stop, and she was crying. It was an older lady, and so it was a mess. And so we kind of got around her in like putting distance. And then at the next stop, we like told the fucking guy to get off, and then tried to wave down one of the guys who worked there. I don't know if it worked or not, but like, that guy was an asshole, right? That guy was awful. He didn't deserve to die for that. He didn't deserve to die for that. And the idea that, like, and I'm sure you think that guy hasn't been in and out of New York City prisons, and if he's still even alive, like, I mean, let's be serious. Like, he didn't deserve to die for that. And the last thing I want to say, or two things about this, this guy, the Marine, again, we'll have to see what exonerating circumstances eventually materialize or not. But guys, like, maybe you don't want to say it as civilians, like, because he's a Marine, he's like in a morally exalted position. I'm not encumbered by that delusion. Yeah, some of the Marines I served with afterwards, many of them, most of them even, ended up being really great contributors to society, and some in profound ways. A lot of them were fucking dirtbags and were just awful. Guys, I had to stop talking to about a dozen of the Marines I served with when the Iraq War started, because on their Facebook pages, they were posting artwork from the fucking Crusades. Like, This idea that like, oh, he was a Marine, he must know better. No, that's a guy who could know better. We'll have to see. But because he's a Marine, that doesn't make his judgment all of a sudden great. It makes him a guy who has been taught that violence is a swift and powerful and therefore a good adjudicator of dispute. That's what that taught him. Taught him that he isn't it, that you can use violence to swiftly adjudicate dispute. And because it is swift and because it is so clear, it is therefore good. When in fact, sometimes swift violence can be great. A lot of times it is actually the opposite of what you really want. So this idea that because he's a Marine, he must have had good training about it and like clear motives, maybe we will only see in time. But because he is a Marine, he is not entitled to that. And I say that as a fucking United States Marine. So you can bring your little pogue criticisms to me about that if you want. One of us fucking served. I have the right to say it. The last thing I want to say on this is, I mean, I have grown. There is research that has been released. It's not new. Robert Putnam has been talking about this since Bowling Alone, but it has only gotten worse and in different ways. The sort of like disintegration of community in the United States. And I've made this point before. Like I'm very much not of the belief that we have grown more paranoid. We have grown more isolated. We have grown more antisocial. I think we've grown angrier in all versions of the political spectrum. And it has revealed itself in various kinds of moral failings. I think deputizing ourselves to kill the homeless on the subway is a great example of that. But a more clear one would be that we just let kids get murdered in schools and we're not doing really anything about it. This is, I won't say a unique problem to the United States, but we are the unique problem relative to, except third world nations, basically. I mean, the amount we just allow young children to be butchered in schools without meaningfully addressing it. Like guys are ringing doorbells and getting shot for it. Like I can point to any number of things where we not just glorify vigilantism, but more than that, this social fraying, this disconnect has only made us more violent, more angry, more willing to see situations like that through a violent lens to solve it because we are angrier and further apart, and there's less community and frankly less just sort of general contentment and happiness going around. This is a layered scenario that is beyond just like, and people are like, what about these other scenarios where people get hurt when homeless on the metro? Yeah, dude, the homeless on the metro are a fucking problem. Like, I'm not telling you they're not a fucking problem. It's a problem. I'm telling you the solution for it is not that we should allow former law enforcement or former military to choke them to death using tools they either don't know how to use or use inappropriately to do so. That seems like a really fucking dark place to go to. The last thing I'll say is, guys, if you live in a major city and you do have mass transit, particularly underground mass transit in places like we have cold climates, the metro system, the subway is the home of last resort. It's the home of last resort. They don't have any other place to go. We want to criminalize their existence in being there. You cannot law enforcement your way out of this problem. You cannot criminalize poverty, criminalize homelessness enough to meaningfully address this if you don't address the actual factors that keep causing shit like this, or make these things go unaddressed for long periods of time. Like, the guy should never have been arrested 40 times and been on the fucking street. But there should have been social services or any other number of actors in the space that could have meaningfully addressed this before we ever got to this fucking problem. So, people looking at this and being like, well, he was threatening to the other passengers on the train. So fucking what? And all these people, godly, man, all these fucking people who are like, I felt threatened. Are you fucking puss? I got to tell you, man. All these people, I was in this scenario, I felt threatened. I was in this scenario, I felt threatened. Because why? I've written that thing for 20 years, man. Like, I'm not saying the homeless are a thing you can just utterly ignore in terms of your security concerns, but like day to day, like, why are you so afraid of everything? Everything. No ability to navigate society on modern terms at all. Like, just constant fear, anxiety. Why the fuck are you so afraid of shit? I all these things you hear about on TV, this is dangerous. That I live in these fucking places, man. They've got real concerns. They've got real challenges. Like, yeah, of course, we shouldn't look past it. It's not the comic book version you have been led to believe. So if you want to live in a world where people can just deputize themselves to kill the homeless because we just don't have reverence for that kind of life anymore, even though we helped facilitate it with the very policies we put in place, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.